I'm trying to hold it. I went to the top of we're trying to change which one do we start to
I'm gonna be bouncing around here, back and forth.
With the cold weather coming in this last few years, it's supposed to rain really nice. All strong breeze. I type on even though it comes up Saturday and Sunday. My do eat the rain. We do. District side of our I don't know.
Both Robert and Tyler are online.
I'll just have to remember to speak up so they can hear us.
Have to remember what?
To speak up so they can hear us.
This microphone should be on.
Okay. All right, 7 o'clock at my clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone, welcome to the September City Council meeting. Before we get going, we do have Councilor Thomas and Councilor Prinsloo on the Zoom meeting. Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. Before we get going, councilors, is there any consent agenda item that you wish to pull out for regular discussion? James? Councilor Thomas?
No.
Okay, and Councilor Prinsloo?
I have none, thank you.
And we'll keep it as is, thank you. The first order of business today will be to declare that we do have a city council position vacated. Councilor Dodge has submitted a resignation. She has moved to Idaho and is no longer residing in the city of Hubbard. So with that vacancy being declared, council will be collecting interested parties for those that would like to submit an application or interest to serve on the board. The question from the council is, how do we want to go about advertise it, sorry. And at the same time, discuss when we want to actually vote or have the discussion to fill the position. And the reason I bring that topic up is I will be missing the October City Council session. And I think in discussions with Vicki earlier on, we were thinking of having the appointment in November to give about 2 months for interested parties to put in an application. That way we have a chance to advertise and hopefully solicit a good amount of candidates. That would be our hope. Councilor Aldrich, anything you want to add on that? Any concerns you might have or any ideas on how to advertise?
I would like to see us continue with advertising it on social media, and I'm good with accepting applications just prior to the November meeting.
Okay. Councilor Thomas, any input?
No, nothing to add, thanks.
Okay, and Councilor Prinsloo.
I have nothing to add either.
All right, so Vicki, is there anything else you need from us on declaring the position vacated?
No, I did want to let you know that I did already receive one application, but we're going to go ahead and solicit more applications, and we'll put that on the November agenda, correct?
Yes, correct. And it sounds like from Council Aldrich's request is we will select or gather them up until the meeting day.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a newsletter going out between now and then?
The newsletter, the deadline.
Maybe in November.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
well, yeah, November 1st, I
Yeah.
mean, we would be going out.
So like a little.
We can put an announcement in that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. And I do see that Michelle is online. Michelle, I want to thank you for your time on the city council and your counsel. Your presence will sorely be missed.
I second that. She might not be.
She's just speechless. Okay, with that, let's just keep
Thank you.
through. Next one, agenda item number 3 is resolution number 7202021, a resolution that will create a job description for city administrator position and repeal resolution number 6532018 regarding the finance director job description. We have, I believe, Emily online as well. Yeah, it's Emily, right? That's all we need on this one.
Yes, and the job description I sent out to you in an email, the updated one, and I also provided you a copy with the updated job description.
Yes.
Okay.
Were there, I read the other one really close. Was there a large delta between them, or was it just some wording?
It was some language, a little bit of cleanup language. Emily can probably elaborate more on that if you would like her to do that.
Yes. Emily, I will turn the floor to you.
Thank you so much. So the major difference between the previous version sent last week and the version sent today is just in the essential work section, there was some redundancies. And so it was cut down significantly from the previous version. And it's essentially set up so that the first roughly third of that essential work section is the code that includes the job description for the city administrator, the duties, sorry, not the job description, the job duties of the city administrator. So those are first. And then the middle third is basically the finance director duties, a little cleaned up again. And then the last third of that section is sort of administrative and other duties. So it's really, everything was in it before, basically, it's just cleaned up, as Vicky said. And then the other sections, I think, remain the same.
I'm going to go around and ask for questions or comments from council on this one, and I'll start with those in the room. That would be Councilor Aldrich. Do you have any questions or concerns with this job description as offered?
No, but I appreciate hearing the difference between the two.
Yes.
That makes it easier, so I have no question.
Councilor Thomas.
No question.
Okay, Councilor Prinsloo.
I do have a question, and my question is this. The city administrator, according to the job description, is going to be in charge of writing all the checks or overseeing that, as well as doing all the accounting portion for the city. What safety measures are in place or can we put in place to make sure that there's no problems with one person overseeing both parts of the accounting process?
Can I?
Go ahead.
So how it has been done is the finance director was already doing that, and they aren't a signer on the account. So I'm a signer, the mayor is a signer, and the council president is a signer on the checks.
And Emily, is that sufficient according to state regulations?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I would have to look into that.
So this has been the practice of the city for Well, since I've been here that I'm aware of, and it's gone through the auditors, so it must be a non-issue.
I'm pretty confident the only question I have is the code that we're amending. Vicky, do you know if any of that is in the code? Because we remember we're changing all instances of city recorder to city administrator in the code.
Yeah, there's nothing in the code that refers to the signing of the checks.
Okay.
More of a procedural thing.
I have a question.
Then I mean, I expect that probably if that's how the city did it before, since that's not changing, then I think that would be fine. If you want me to triple check state law and budgeting law and stuff, I can do that.
Well, no disrespect to anyone in that room, but I want to make sure if we're going to make such a big change to the way the city processes business, I want to make sure that we start off on the ground in the right direction and that we don't make a mistake and start tripping right out of the gate. So if there's a chance that you could get some confirmation that the process that we have been doing in the past is the best, or at least an acceptable process, I would appreciate that.
Okay, and we have another question from Councilor Aldridge.
Does all invoices get accepted through department heads first?
Yes, the invoices go through the department heads for coding, and then they go into the finance office, where the finance officer would input them into the system and cut the checks. So that is an additional piece that I left out. So yes, you are correct.
So it gets signed off by a department head before it even comes to Vicky for her signature and then to Charles or me for our signature.
Correct.
So Emily, in this case, do we need to close on that open by Councilor Prinsloo before we move forward on this motion or resolution?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, that's fine. Do we need to postpone this resolution until we close on that question, or can we pass a resolution with a caveat that we have a clear, or we have the best practice available for basically overseeing checks?
Yes, I think that you can pass the resolution with that caveat, and I might be able to find out the answer before your meeting concludes after these next two items. So yes, you can do that.
Would council be open to postponing this resolution vote till the end of the meeting, and we can provide Emily time to see if she can research?
I would be in favor.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, Irish?
That's fine.
Okay, and Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We will take on to the end of the meeting, and we'll move on to discussion regarding recruitment of the city manager. And again, we're going to probably bug Emily here, so she'll probably be slightly delayed on that research.
Yes, thank you. So I will give a brief introduction of next steps in the process, which is the recruitment. And that can go sort of a couple of different ways. The city can either choose to proceed with the recruitment in-house, and that would involve several steps, which I'm going to lay out in a minute, or you can choose to go with a recruitment firm. And there are obviously pros and cons to both approaches. Most cities, most of our clients choose to go with a firm, a recruitment firm. So if that's the way you would choose to go, then the next step would be selecting a firm and following your contracting rules. So that process, if that's the way the city chose to go, so next step is choosing the firm and then engaging the firm and then the firm doing the whole recruitment up to the point of actually hiring the city administrator will probably take several months. I would estimate 5 to 6 months. And then basically all of the activities for the recruitment would depend on obviously whether the city proceeds without a firm and doing it in-house, or if you choose a firm, and then depending on the sort of firm you choose and how in depth you want them to get. But some of the activities you can expect in a recruitment would be to refine the job profile, gather input from the public and city staff, develop application materials, and that includes both recruitment and applications. So recruiting and publicizing the job posting, but then also the application materials, advertising the position, which can range pretty widely from how in depth the recruitment goes, outreach, network, recruiting, or just posting. A firm would respond to applicant inquiries for you, or could, I suppose, depending on whether the city wants that. Then do an initial review of the applicants, develop a list of finalists, additional public outreach, which could include a community receptions and stuff like that, engaging with community groups and local administrators. Then once you whittle it down to finalists, background checks, final interviews with the city council, and selection and hiring. I think I'll say the cost for a firm ranges from 10,000 at the lower end to roughly 25,000, depending on the firm and how in-depth you want the firm to get. There are several local firms that have a lot of experience, even hiring city managers and city administrators. And I would say I talked to Ashley, and our recommendation based on the city's needs and the city's current staffing would be probably to engage with a firm. I think it would be a lot for the city to undertake in-house, but that's sort of all I prepared as my little introduction, but I can answer questions as best I can if there are any.
I've been more inclined to using a firm. I think the last time we tried to go through it in-house with the director position for finance, it took us 6 months right there, and we got very few candidates. That would be at least the take I would have. Councilor Rogers?
I agree. I'd like to see us use a firm, and I don't know if we need to go to lengths of doing a nationwide search type of deal, scale it back to as easy as it could be and at least impactful for.
What do you think, Councilor Brinslow?
Well, if we go and search for a person, I think using a service would be best. Can you remind me when we agreed that we were actually going to go and search for someone? Last I recall, we were approving a position, not necessarily going out and filling it at this point.
I'm pretty sure the last discussion we had was to create the position and then start recruitment or hiring for it. Councilor Rogers, you want to add off on that, memory?
Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused because I don't recall that ever happening. I think this is something that someone did on their own, because I don't ever remember being part of a discussion where we agreed that we were pursuing hiring a position or hiring a person to become a city manager.
James is taking a look at something here real quick. Okay, well, James is reading here. When we voted to create the position and job description, I believe we were also looking to hire this after created. That's the resolution. The resolution to be voted on today was that resolution to create the position. Now, we don't have Ashley online to clarify that, but we could bring up, I guess, previous minutes and bring that into the next meeting if need be. Vicky, do you recall what meeting it was where we had this discussion? I was pretty sure it was, well, we were still doing the meeting in the closed city hall, but open on live meeting.
Well, we've been going through this process where we, you know, you guys budgeted and approved the budget, and the attorneys have been online with us at each step of the way, knowing that we have no finance person. So it seems like at pretty much every meeting, we've been moving forward to where we're at the point where we're at now. And,
So the next logical thing is the resolution to approve the job description and to go on to
recruitment,
for
yes.
this stated position.
So, right, so the attorneys have been telling us, you know, this is the next step, this is the next step. So we've been moving forward because that's what I thought this council was wanting us to do in order to fill the finance position. So that's where we're at now. We now have a job description for you. And then what Emily is saying is once you get once you approve the job description, if you guys are ready to recruit, these are your options for recruitment.
Yeah. And I believe the vote when we did that was 4-1.
Yeah.
I recall that we approved to create the position. I don't recall any discussion or approval or voting to actually hire someone at this time. I recall it that we were going to discuss options and so forth. That's why I bring it up. I think that there's a step that
Budget meeting, we did discuss the various options on what we could do. Whether it was going to be a finance position, a part-time position, etc. And the council, not unanimously, but the council did vote to pursue the city administrator role. So Prinsloo, if Councilor Prinsloo, if you're suggesting that you would like to have another public discussion on whether we should or should not fill this position, is that what your recommendation is?
yes, that would be my recommendation. I think this needs to be voted on, and I don't recall that happening.
Okay.
This was the next step. Technically, we should have voted on the resolution. And then we would come back next meeting and say, okay, let's recruit. But we're trying to get, if we get the resolution done, instead of waiting yet another month, it was put in our agenda to discuss the actual recruitment part. Because again, we've been months without, and so us to, I mean, this is the defining job description. So if there's any discussion, more should be about this.
And not about the recruitment.
So this gets through. Then we need to say, this is what we want. I think we should go out for recruitment because we know that's still going to be months out.
Okay, so if we go back to agenda topic 3, resolution number 7202021, my assumption would be, and it could be a huge assumption, is that we pass that, we are creating a position that we wish to have filled. So we can return to that and we can go ahead and begin the discussion, and we can vote this evening. Unless Councilor Prinsloo or Councilor Thomas, you don't feel you are in a position to be able to have that vote this evening in that discussion.
No, I'm in a position to vote.
I would be in a position to discuss it and vote also. but I want the opportunity to do that.
Why don't we move back to resolution or the agenda topic 3 and have the discussion? I mean, that's what it's there for. So Councilor Prinsloo, I'll open the floor to you.
So, as I stated several meetings ago, I understand the desire to have a city manager / budget officer. I don't know that we are fiscally in a position that we can afford that. And I think that it's important that we have the council approve whether or not we actually, 1, approve the position, and 2, whether or not we want to fill that position at this time.
So do you have a recommendation, Councilor Prinsloo, of how we might go forth and also eliminate the financial need that we have in terms of having a financial director and or someone to manage payroll and the financial aspects of the city?
It would be my recommendation that we look at someone that would be qualified to deal with the financial part and go that route. I made that suggestion again. I believe it was several meetings ago. And I'm not in favor at this point for spending the money to get a city manager.
And I would assume at this point, and Councilor Thomas, what is your discussion topics?
Yeah, I think if we're going back to meeting minutes, if that's what we're doing here, we could go back to the January meeting minutes where I suggested that we hire someone as soon as possible to fill the financial role. And that would still be my recommendation today, is that we need to do that. We're short-staffed, we're overworked, underpaid. So that needs to happen for sure. My stance on the city manager position, if you go back to the May minutes, I put together a 2-page letter on the reasons why I don't think we need to move forward with the city manager at this time. The negative operating budget being number 1. And I think also what some people may or may not know around town, if they're paying attention or not, is that department heads were asked to, scratch line items off their budget, cut their budgets to create, funds for this position, when I think maybe people or department heads were not aware that what that money was going towards. So I don't think there's very many people in this city that would approve of lowering a budget for the police department to hire a city manager, and I would be one of those people. So if you go back to what I said in the letter in the May meeting, I'm not in favor of a city manager at this time. I think down the road we'll get to a point where we do need one, but not today, not with the negative operating budget, not with cutting police budget. Not in favor, and would vote no.
Okay, Councilor Irish, anything additional?
Well, from the get-go, I've always stated that you got to pull the trigger at some point. We're not going to hire a city finance director to turn around and say in 6 months, 8 months, woulda, coulda, shoulda, because it was all right there on the table. Yet we chose to bury our head in the sand as to what our department heads would have liked to have seen. We interviewed them all. They all said the financial hit to them was minimal because they knew that they could probably look at saving funds in the long run by having somebody over the top of them to help them find those types of savings here and savings there, better use of everybody's time. And we listened to the department heads talk about how all 4 of them have to interact with council and only on certain days. And if they had a go-to person, such as a city administrator, life for them would be a whole lot easier. And that even the police department said that it did not feel like he was taking a huge impact for the outcome to assist in the overall scheme of things. This isn't something we can go back in 6 months and say, we're going to fire the new finance director so we can hire a city administrator. We've already determined that. We've already determined that for them to get a hold of us, go through the whole chain of everything. Sometimes the mayor gets information, sometimes the council president gets information, and it needs to be streamlined through a channel. And that's what this is addressing, is getting us a city administrator that can do the day-to-day. Yes, I know how the city finance works. It's never been an issue before. They sign off on the bills, it goes to city finance. They sign off, it goes to 2 signatures. If we have a question, I know I've had questions before I've asked about bills, it's been explained. We as counselors all have the opportunity to bring that up in a public open meeting. It wouldn't be any different than having somebody who knows and has their finger on the pulse of what's going on, especially financially.
So I agree with everything you said, Counselor Rogers. I do know when we had this discussion, it was when we were discussing the budget in city council for approval. I forgot which month that was now. But I know at that time, we did have a vote to move forward with creating the position. But Councilor Prinsley, you might be correct in the sense that maybe we did not vote to approve to hire said position. But we did in that meeting ask every department head their feelings, whether to move forward this opportunity or not. I believe every department head wanted to move forward with this opportunity, and it was advised by Summer, who was doing the budget for us, that we had funds to do it now, and if we wanted to do it, now was the time to do it. But that being the case, if there is any contention, then we need to move forward as a counselor or council and have a vote on it then. So when I look at this resolution number 3, creating a job description, to me, I guess we need to add additional resolution to approve the hiring of that position as well. Which doesn't make much sense. It seems like if we approve number 3, we are trying to move forward with that hiring. So I'm assuming that if we vote on number 3, we will move forward with either hiring or not hiring based off the outcome of that vote.
I think something else to throw out there, just so everybody's aware of it. And the first part of this is a rhetorical question, but how many people run their household on a negative operating budget? Maybe some people do, but I'd be surprised if there was a lot of people that raise their hand and say, yeah, you know what, I go out and spend more money than I make, and I do it every month. Not a good idea. That's what Summer was suggesting we do with the city of Hubbard's budget. Not a good idea. So I think people should keep that in mind.
Well, I believe what Summer was saying is we had money in the bank that was just sitting there unused.
Right. And it's not that we're operating negative, we're just maybe don't have a little bit less carryover, but we still have extra money at the end of every year. We have, and we've been, squirting that into a carryover, and we've been doing very well at that.
James, are you serious? You said we're not operating negatively. I think you should look at the numbers again in the budget.
So what I remember Summer saying is that you would be, there's money there to do the to have a city administrator, and that you would be using some of those reserve funds that were there, that are set aside, that have been set aside, is what you're talking about, James. But the hope was, and that the city administrator coming in would be able to find more funds and invest or whatever. That's what I recall Summer saying at that last meeting that I think it was maybe in June.
Yeah, whenever we approve the budget.
Yes.
And wasn't the difference between the finance salary and this salary, 40,000, 50,000? On $1 million of budget?
I don't recall the exact amount, and really that's, Summer should be here for that kind of conversation, but I think that that was around the ballpark, around the figure that you're talking about.
I think the total negative operating was around 140,000. And then if you're talking about adding a search firm to find a candidate, you can tack on another 25. So I don't know very many people that could say I operate in the red at 165 grand a year, and that's a good idea. I just don't see it.
I don't see how we're that much in the red if we haven't paid the city finance salary for 6 months. And that salary was only 50,000 less than what we're offering. So I just think that's kind of
It's simple. I think it's simple math. If your budget's 1,000 and you spend 1,200, you're in the red. And that's the way that our budget's set up this year.
Okay. Councilor Prinsloo, anything else to add?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll just clear it. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve resolution number 7202021.
I second that.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those in favor say nay.
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 Okay, so we have a deadlock on the resolution to move forward. Then I will then go ahead and move forward, and not on here, and hopefully we can do this. I would like to make a resolution that we begin the search immediately for a financial director with the existing language that we have written.
I second that.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those in favor say, not in favor, say nay. Councilor
Guys,
Prinsloo?
were we on mute? I voted in
I
favor.
am yes. Let's try that again. Hold on. So there is a motion on the table that we move forward with hiring a financial director with current language that we have for that position with no changes. James seconded the motion. So all those in favor of moving forward immediately with recruiting or hiring a financial director, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, council passes unanimously that we'll go forward with just hiring a financial director.
So the question is, are we using a recruiting firm, or how do you want to go about recruiting your finance director?
I would strongly recommend that the council move forward with requesting a recruiting firm do it. The last time we attempted to do it in-house.
This is out.
Yep.
Okay, I changed mine. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
I'm sorry.
My vote is nay. I want this. So, no, I'm not in favor of going out for a financial person right now.
So, okay, so there was a motion made by Charles and you seconded it.
I didn't
So,
understand that.
That's fine. So the vote is that we abandon, or so the motion will be that we no longer move forward with a city manager position, and that we will move immediately to hire a financial director.
And mine would be negative, no, because I cannot in good conscience say we're throwing away 6 months worth of work, and we're gonna go back and look at the citizens and say, sorry, we don't have anybody over the top. And we're never going to at this rate.
so
On your vote of yay, Councilor Prinsloo and Councilor Thomas, was that clear on what we were voting for?
It was clear to me.
Yes.
Thomas? Okay,
so,
Yes.
it'd be 3-1.
well, so you don't have a second because he rescinded his second.
He rescinded his, okay.
So there's no second.
Let's try it again then, one more time. I will make a motion that we immediately move forward with hiring the financial director position with language as written, and that we will no longer move forward with the creation of a city administrator. There's a motion on the table. Counselor Prinsloo or Counselor Thomas? Do either of you want to second that motion? Counselor Prinsloo, you're on mute, just in case you're speaking.
I would like to see us look at options and see if there's anything that we need to change for finance director recruitment. As I recall, there were other options that were presented, not just a finance director.
Okay, Vicki, can we line up for the next council meeting a revisiting of the options we have for the financial position? Same ones we discussed at the budget council meeting when you guys came in with the options for financial director, a city administrator, and I believe the other option was a part-time financial.
And you want this at the October or the November meeting?
I will be at the October one, so let's line it up for November. By that time, we'll also have a full council again. Counselor Prinsloo and Counselor Thomas, is that okay for you?
I would be fine with that.
Counselor Thomas?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, discussion regarding the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. And Emily is back on the discussion for this one.
Yes, hello again, still. So I saw in your packet, Vicki included the basic categories for what the city may use its disbursement on. And I'm just going to give a brief overview and some examples. These are policy decisions that council can make, and I'm just providing the legal sort of guardrails for making those decisions. I believe the city has been allocated roughly $792,000, which will be dispersed in 2 tranches. I'm not sure yet whether the first tranche has been actually dispersed. Vicki can maybe answer that.
Yes, there was, we received 396,252.22 currently.
So that money can be spent on eligible costs that were incurred before, that will be incurred before the end of 2024. There are reporting requirements, the first of which is a project and expenditure report that is due at the end of October of this year, and then annually after that at the end of October. So with that, I'll just give, like I said, a brief sort of overview and some examples of options for each of the 6 different categories that the city may use the money for. So the first category is to support public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. That includes personal protective equipment, disinfection of public areas, paid sick and paid family medical leave to public employees, any sort of infrastructure changes to city facilities that are designed to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus, or that have been spent since the bill was passed to do that, which was March 11th of this year. And then certain payroll costs for public safety employees. Second category is to address the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. And that includes not only direct effects caused by COVID, or so people who actually were sick, but also caused by the economic measures taken to mitigate the spread of COVID, like the governor's executive orders. So if a business was forced to close for a period, then the city can help that business because they suffered negative economic impacts by the public health emergency, even if like no one in their business actually had COVID. So there's a long list of ways that that money can be used within that category. Congress essentially determined that low-income families and communities of color were the hardest hit by the pandemic. And so the funds can be used on helping low-income families and communities of color, such as individuals experiencing homelessness and making affordable housing developments. Fourth, to replace lost public sector revenue. This one is unique because it is the most broad. There aren't very many restrictions, but it has to be tied to a demonstrated reduction in revenue. And there's information in the act about how to demonstrate that and what that requires. And once you do demonstrate that, then the use of the funds is much looser than the other categories. The fifth category is premium pay for essential workers, which is pretty straightforward. Essential workers is defined in the act. I can help with that. That can also be retrospective. That's one of the only categories where it can predate the passage of the act. And then also the last category is certain investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And that's, again, pretty detailed in the act. So I know many cities have developed programs such as utility payments for people who were affected by the pandemic or supplementing utility payments. I helped another client with a grant program for small businesses that were affected. There's a lot of different options. And basically, I know Vicki wanted me to talk about whether ordinance or resolution is required, and it just depends on what the city decides to do with the funds. I probably can't answer if you have like an idea for a program. I'm not sure I can answer on the spot right now whether it would be allowed, but I can do my best. And like I said, it's a policy decision for council with how you want to spend that money. And I'm just here to help you do it legally. So.
Wonderful. I did read the write-up that was included in there, and I highlighted some specifics that I saw. The one was to invest in water, sewer. Well, we don't need any broadband infrastructure investment. But looking at public works, is that something we can use to upgrade the filtration system of public works? Would that work for improving water waste or wastewater management that's going out in the streams, et cetera?
I was gonna say possible. I'd have to look into the finer points of what they're talking about there. This is just sort of an overview, but from what it looks like here, yes.
Okay. Then I have a question for the police department. Do we have enough information to maybe get reimbursed for all the PPE that you guys had to purchase?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for you at this point.
Okay.
But I'm certain that the chief and Molly have got the numbers, and they can put that together, and we'll be submitting that to all of it.
And I guess a question to Vicki then, would as small of an expense as it was, the awning that was placed outside was an infrastructure improvement that was put in place for COVID. Would that not possibly qualify as well?
That might be, that would be something we'd have to check into. You said something about the broadband, but when I went to, or was listening to a discussion about this, there's I remember people talking about having difficulty in the city with the internet during, everything that was going on. So that might be something that you may want to consider of updating the internet capabilities within the city.
True, but we would have to probably partner with either Wave or Comcast, I'm assuming, to do that. And I think Comcast has already dumped a lot in the infrastructure. So Again, I'm just looking for options that might be out there. The other one I noticed on here as well was there was a modernizing cybersecurity, including hardware, software, et cetera, et cetera. Is this something we might also look into for reimbursement on the server that we're looking to replace?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check into that.
Those would be my questions. I guess I would look for recommendations from the department heads on where they think we can spend the money wisely, where it falls in with the funds, especially PPE reimbursement. Boy, if we can upgrade our filtration system down at the sewer plant, that would be an opportunity. So I don't know, that would be my recommendation, at least. Councilor Aldrich.
What was the October deadline that she talked about?
The October deadline is, there's reporting requirements. So we have to report what we're doing with the funds.
By this October.
Well, that's the first reporting requirement.
So if we haven't spent any by then, are we?
I don't think,
Would we be penalized?
I don't think there's a penalty. I mean, Emily can talk to that. I think that's just, we've received our money and we're in the process of trying to, we're just updating them on what we're doing, trying to get a plan together or whatever. And feel free to jump in anytime you want, Emily.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said. I don't, unless you start spending the money before October, it would be a relatively simple report.
So there's nothing to rush on this. We can spend it wisely and make sure it is going towards what it's meant to be. Councilor Prinsloo, thoughts, suggestions, ideas, comments?
Well, the one thing that I would like to see, in addition to the good ideas that we've put forward so far, is there a program that we can start to help those in our community that were negatively impacted by, the COVID issues, whether it be business or, just families? If maybe we could look into some sort of grant program or something that we could help our local population, in addition to the good ideas that were brought forward, how the city could spend some of the money wisely.
Excellent suggestion, Councilor Prinsloo. Councilor Thomas.
I agree with all the suggestions that have already been made.
So I guess the request to the department heads, if you can please work with Emily and bring back some maybe suggestions that we might be able to move forward on. I know I will miss the next meeting, but I'm assuming Councilor Aldrich will do a fine job in my stead, listening and agreeing on the recommendations if needed, or postponing those recommendations out for a wider discussion in November. I'm glad to hear that we're not under a time pressure to have to spend money, because I'd like to see us spend it wisely and not just quickly try to use the money. So for the department heads, is there any additional clarification you might need from council on what we're asking?
No, I'm good.
Vicky?
No,
Okay, and Sergeant Anderson?
Not that I'm aware of, but we'll cross that bridge.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion points on that before we move on from any of the counselors online, or James?
No.
Okay,
I have none.
go ahead, Councilor Prinsloo.
I have none.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead. Number 6, appoint planning commission member, 1 position. There is currently 2 applicants for it. Since I know one of them, I am going to hand this agenda topic over to Councilor Aldrich, and I will recuse myself from discussion or vote.
Before us is 2 applicants, and we've had this open for a couple months, soliciting volunteers.
Might I interject for a moment?
Sure.
Okay, so the current position that's open is, the term ends December 31st, 2021. However, January 1 will be starting for 2 positions. They're going to be expired at the end of December. So there'll be 2 positions open, and those will run from January to December 2024.
So they're 3-year positions,
Yes.
and this, we're just looking to fill it for the next 2-3 months?
Right, the one that's currently vacated, yes.
When it's currently vacated. So Counselor Thomas and Counselor Prinsloo, we have 2 before us. Your thoughts? They both look very good. And one's in town.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first, James. I think the most important thing is that we have the most diverse planning commission as possible, and I think diverse in this case meaning one of the candidates already is related to somebody who holds a position of power within the city, and so for me, I would be leaning the other direction just for that reason.
Counselor Prinsloo?
I would concur with my counterpart.
Okay, you make a good point. So, let's do a vote.
Yeah, so there'll need to be a motion made and.
Okay, I need a motion on one of the 2.
I make a motion that we approve the open planning commission member position through December 31st of this year to Phil Cartel as the member.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say by saying aye.
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 Welcome to the planning commission. Thank you.
And he is here in the audience. Welcome.
I'm sure he's smiling behind it now.
I am. I'm excited.
Excellent.
I give it back to you.
Thank you, Councilor Under. Okay, let's move on. This one will be Rocky Sherwood, discussion regarding Barnsey Park annual harvest dance event.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Appreciate everything you guys do to fight for our community, keeping everybody honest and legit. So as you guys know, I don't know if you guys know, but we've been working really close to Melinda. We reached out to the Barnsey family. They donated a lot of money to replace the backstop. So a gift that I want to do in their name, because I'm sure Howard Barnsey, when he pushed for the park to be donated, the field space to be donated to the city, he had a mission then, and he's no longer with us. So I feel as a community person, I'd kind of like to take that park's mission on and continue his mission to the day, bring honor to that park and use that park for ministry to our youth and families to bring people together. So we went out and we got an event with some food trucks, and we're waiting on the PTO to set up some games to raise money for their PTO program to include North Marion, try to bring the communities together. With all the negativity's been going on with the school district and the communities with the politics and everything, we figured it'd be a great time to bring something positive to the community. And that's kind of what Dan, the window man, Dan Jones approached me on the idea. And so I'm bringing it before you. I think we should go ahead and go for it. It's not going to cost the city no money, but we're going to raise funds for the community so we could put on like the parades and the holiday truck event at the park. And we have a DJ come from Redmond and some like games and a DJ. You know, it's gonna be a fun time. So hopefully we have your blessing in that, and we'll handle the cleanup and everything, and continue to work closely with Melinda and Mike. And we already told them that any extra projects that they have in the future to let us know, and then we'll round up some crews to help the city as well and trade for putting these events on.
So the only question I have for you, Rocky, and before the event, have you submitted the application through Public Works to approve for City Council to approve that it's a go?
We haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
We've been working with Melinda, and then the thing was to bring the topic up tonight and then finalize it as we get more information for the October meeting.
Perfect. So we'll vote on that then in October. By the way, this is awesome. I love the way you're bringing the community together and you always have positive ideas and you seem to make them happen.
And we got Active Media on board as a sponsor to help do all the broadcasting and everything to help
Was
us.
this to be held in town or out at the? street?
Muncie Park,
We've already actually put an ad in the,
can be.
Woodburn Advantage magazine. I did that through my contacts. I'm sorry, I probably went overboard, but we want this to,
I think, I don't see any necessarily anything that would stand in the way. Public Works is aligned and working with you. And we'll just make sure we dot the i's and cross the t's in October.
And we're supposed to have the National Guard involved, so that'll be our security. Won't cost us their presence will be like a security blanket for us in the community, which won't cost the city, and we won't have to do a bunch of officers, maybe 2 officers that's on duty already to kind of dive through and oversee things. That'd probably be plenty.
Councilor Rogers?
I have nothing.
Councilor Prinsloo?
I would be in favor of it.
Okay, Councilor Thomas?
Yeah, I'm in favor. Thank you, Rocky.
Appreciate you guys. Miss you guys. Hopefully we'll see you next time in person. Prinsloo and Thomas.
thank you, council.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I will be back in town for that, so I'll be down there. Okay.
Is there a date?
Huh?
Is there a date?
Yeah, October 16th.
October 7th.
Yeah, so they'll approve the application, then they'll bring it in to use the park, et cetera, in the October council meeting, October 12th. So, okay, let's move on to agenda 8, mayor council presentation. Councilor Rogers, do you have anything? Okay, Councilor Prinsloo?
I just want to remind everybody that Love Santa is gearing up for another distribution season. We'll have more information out to the community, hopefully in the next month.
Excellent. Councilor Thomas?
Nothing to add. Thanks.
Awesome. We'll move on to staff reports and we'll start off with the police department. In this case, Chief Rash is out of town, so we are honored with Sergeant Anderson's presence tonight.
Good evening, council members, Sergeant Anderson, Hubbard Police. You've got the chief's report in front of you. I'll just go over a few things that occurred in the last 30 plus days. We've had, it's not on the list, but we've had a very active month so far. In September, last month, we had a number of really pretty intense cases that include a lot of moving parts. And our guys are doing a really good job out there, just digging and finding this stuff, most of the self-initiated activity. Officer Bentley had a large case involved in the storage facility here on Schmidt Lane. That case is still kind of growing. It's going to be a good case. Community outreach. We participated in the North Marion Schools Back to School Night, which is an event we typically participate in every year. This year, no different. Fantastic turnout. And just a good time for us to hang out with the students out there and the parents and let them into our vehicles, provide with stickers, questions and answers, photos. We had a great time out there and we had a really good showing with our department. We had myself, Chief Rash, Officer Jimenez, were out there during this event. It was a great turnout. So we look forward to doing that every year. The accreditation, when Chief Rash came on board, one of the primary things he did fairly quickly was to get the City of Hubbard Police Department accredited, which is for those that aren't aware, it's kind of a tightening of our department to the point where there are standards that we've got to meet that other departments that aren't accredited aren't necessarily held to that standard. It makes us more professional. It makes us a stronger, tighter department, and we're going to continue that on. Our accreditation is up in December. We don't see any problem meeting that standard and moving on after December. You see the copy of the statistics. As you can see, we had an incredibly busy month, as I said, and that just continues. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, and we're trying to stay ahead. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions, but we'll go around in a second. But I do want to say I can't believe it's been 3 years for the accreditation.
I can't either.
3 years.
I can't either.
Feels like we just got it.
Yep.
Councilor Rogers.
I have 2 things. One, I forgot to bring up because it does involve Police Department under council presentation, so for that I apologize. On Friday the 13th, the Police Department, Hubbard Fire Department, Woodburn Fire Department, Mount Angel Fire Department, Mount Angel Police Department all participated in a funeral procession for the late Carlton Gianella. And the police department not only assisted with traffic control, but Hubbard Police followed the procession. It was a small one, 10 vehicles, and the fire truck with the remains of a longtime volunteer firefighter all the way to Mount Angel. We had a lot of fire agencies. It was very touching to the family. It showed us support for a wonderful man, and all the way down the food chain from the top leadership of all the departments all the way down. It was super honorable, even though Chief Rash was out, to have officers there to assist. Hubbard Fire, Woodburn Fire, it was very touching. And then we got to Mount Angel, got a police escort into town, and then firefighters standing at attention when we pulled into the cemetery. So I just wanted to show my appreciation to the public entities like that coming together and making this happen. So I can't thank everybody enough. So that's one thing. Second of all, I was gone for a couple of weeks there, 2 or 3 weeks. And Chief Rash did a vacation house check paperwork. And it's amazing when all your ring cameras go off and you watch the police officers walk around your house. I knew that they were watching, and I appreciate the involvement that the police has when just keeping those of us that are on vacations and keeping the community safe. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Councilor Prinsloo.
I just want to thank the police department again for continuing to do an outstanding job, helping the community and, making good decisions and getting the crime kept under control. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Councilor Thomas.
I would echo the same. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Excellent. If there's no other questions, thank you, Sergeant Anderson. Chief Budge, you're up. Fire Department.
Mayor and councilors, I'll just begin my report with a couple of community outreach things that the fire district is doing. The first is the annual Fill the Booth for MDA is this Saturday. So we'll be setting up again on the corners of D and 99, all 4 corners, probably from about 9 to 1, doing the Fill the Booth for MDA. So that's coming up. I know that's requires some coordination with Public Works and police. So the second is we'll be doing standbys again with at the North Marion football games. That's required under school district policy that emergency medical technicians are available when they play. So we partner with the Aurora Fire District. The school district is actually in the Aurora Fire District, but we both stand by in case one or the other gets a call. They can continue the game and don't have to pause while we run the call. So we'll be doing that at all the home football games. And the last has to do with the governor's vaccine mandate. We are working on compliance with that. All fire service personnel have been included in the governor's order for the vaccine mandate. We are under obligation to comply with the vaccine or get the vaccine or file an exception prior to October 18th. So we're working on that compliance now.
Okay. Any questions for Chief Budge? And we'll start online this time with Councilor Thomas.
No questions.
And Councilor Prinsloo.
No questions, and thank you, Chief Budge, for all that you and your department do.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Councilor Rogers.
Oh, thank you, Chief.
Okay. Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to administration department or administrative department.
Just a reminder, the newsletter submittals are due on October 14th. And the department head evaluations are coming up in October. And I'm wondering if you wanted to go ahead and schedule that now.
Sure, I would have no issue with scheduling it now. Can we do it the last Tuesday of the month? That typically would have been the farmer's market.
The 26th of October?
I believe so. I would ask Councilor Prinsloo, are you available that evening?
It depends on what time we start, but if it was after 6 PM, I should be available if all goes well.
I think 6 PM would be a reasonable start time. I have to work too. Councilor Thomas?
I'm available as of today.
Okay, and Councilor Aldridge? Okay, why don't we go ahead and tentatively have that scheduled then for the 26th of October
At 6 o'clock.
at 6 o'clock? If that works for the department heads, I guess I need to ask that question as well. Anyone going to be out on vacation or out of town?
I was gonna be taking some training out of town, the 26th, 27th, and 28th.
We could move it to the first Tuesday in November. I don't have a calendar on the top of my head, so
The first Tuesday in November is your goal setting meeting.
I can't do that. I keep forgetting face recognition doesn't work when you have a mask on.
What about the 20th of October, which is the week before,
I can meet on the 20th.
which is a
Councilor
Wednesday?
Aldridge, can you meet on the 20th?
It's a Wednesday.
That's a Monday. Or is it, no, it's a,
It's a Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday, yes.
I would suggest the 19th, but I don't know if I'm gonna have any. Actually, maybe the 19th would be okay.
Planning commission typically.
Well, I don't have any applications currently.
Okay. I prefer to probably try to do it on the 20th, just in case something comes in.
Sure.
Does the 20th work for department heads first?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Prinsloo, would the 20th of October work for you if we started at 6 PM?
At this point, yes.
Okay, and Councilor Thomas?
Yes, as of today.
Okay, and Councilor Aldridge? Okay,
And are we doing this the same way where you're having the department heads evaluate each other?
yes, I would ask that we do that again. I think it allows us to at least have good feedback from the various department heads on their peers. And I would ask if we can at least have those submitted to council a week beforehand, so we have a chance to review those and also consolidate those. So hopefully in by the 13th or by the end of the week, so we at least have the weekend and a few days leading up to it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Because I would like to at least make it doubtful, so I can have some, meaningful comments and not read it just, when we get them on that day.
Okay. And then just a reminder, goal setting on the 2nd at 6:30 is what I have down.
All right, I've got that on my calendar. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and tentatively plan based off availability that we can meet October 20th at 6 PM for the department head reviews. I would ask if any counselor has a conflict that pops up, or even a department head, please let us know beforehand, and we can reschedule it then October 1st if we have to.
Sounds good. Thank you. I
You're
don't
welcome.
have anything else unless you have any other.
Okay, Counselor Prinsloo, any questions for Vicky?
No, I do not. Thank you, Vicky.
Counselor Thomas?
No questions. Thank you.
Counselor Aldridge?
I have nothing.
All right, then we'll move right on to Public Works.
You've got our report in front of you. First of all, do we have any questions about what's on the report?
The only question I have is the time schedule for the sidewalk in G Street. Was that in September or October?
Yeah, it was actually supposed to have happened on September the 7th, but the concrete people ended up with COVID, so they're still,
So it's like,
they're still recovering, so we've got the calls out and we're wanting to get rescheduled with them.
do you believe we'll still finish it before the weather changes nasty on us?
I hope so. I hope what's coming in this weekend is just sort of intern and then it goes into the generally fall Oregon weather where it's rainy off and on. We get some nice days.
It has to rain this weekend. It's October.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna catch
That's
it.
true.
It doesn't happen.
I don't have any questions based off of what was submitted, though, by Councilor Rogers.
I have no questions.
Councilor Brenslow?
Mike, I do have a question about that telephone pole that we're waiting for removal for the sidewalk project. Any update on when that might get taken care of?
It looks like it's not gonna happen. Getting a telephone pole removed that has as much hardware on it as that one does is problematic at best. So what we have done is we've engineered around it, so the pole stays in the same spot, but the ADA ramps moved off to one side, and then there's a jog in the sidewalk itself that gets it up to the railroad tracks.
So it would be my guess that the move would be to the south towards Woodburn, or is it towards the north?
It's towards the south.
Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had.
There's a big pad like you have on the end of the football goal post, so if you do run into it.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised, someone.
Well, yeah, we will bubble wrap it.
Councilor Thomas, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, and we had one other thing that we got notice of yesterday, and it's on the memorandum that Melinda sent out earlier today. And it has to do with DEQ is starting the process to get our permit renewed up at the wastewater treatment plant. And I'm thinking this is great timing for us because we are now on the consent agenda asking for the ability to get into a contract with an engineering firm for the wastewater master plan study. So if we can coordinate those at the same time, it saves us a whole lot of money, time, and effort.
I know I said I didn't have any questions, but now of course I do. Did we ever hear from DEQ on any of those potential fines because of the spills?
No, we didn't, but with DEQ, it's still pending. And I'll give you an example. The permit that they're renewing has been 15 years. So they will tell you if called that they are very much behind on things, but they will get around to it at some point and we'll have a discussion with us. So it's just not a matter of if it will happen, it'll be when. It could be next year at this time. And then they'll give me a call and remember when.
Okay, before we move on then, anything else?
You have anything, Melinda? Okay, I think we're
I
good.
know, I completely lied. I do have one more question.
Okay.
I do notice that we consistently have vandalism on the Book Nook on Rivinus Park. Any suggestions how we can mitigate that? Maybe just put a piece of wood in there instead of plexiglass? It seems like someone's just really dead set on breaking that.
We actually discussed that this week, and I think the fix for that is take the door off. Because it is underneath covered area, so the books aren't gonna get wet when it rains. And then they won't have something to, what we see is kids coming along and slamming the door. And it breaks the plexiglass. You just take that off and they won't have anything there to play with anymore.
Are we worried about moisture or humidity damaging the books?
I don't think that removing the door is gonna have that big of an effect on it because of where it's located. I mean, you're gonna have humidity anyway because of the rain, and you're not gonna get it directly rained on. So my thought there is we'll take the door off, and if that doesn't work, we'll go to plan B.
Okay. I was just curious about that one. Any additional questions before we move on? And I swear I have no more. And if not, let's just keep moving along. Number 10, discussion regarding Veterans Memorial.
Go ahead.
You want me to go?
Yeah, please.
I saw your name on
Yeah, so I mean, talk about passing the buck.
there. Linda Kozinski, 2409 8th Street. we're gonna plan to go ahead and have the Veterans Day ceremony with everybody's permission. We'll have, I'll file for using that veterans area, the memorial site for the event. We have not been doing that in the past. And we have changed our bylaws. So, and I'm gonna amend it so it goes to IRS and to state. That we want to comply with all the rules that the city has for all the city parks and set an example too. So I'm gonna file for having an event then, and it can go on the October consent agenda, okay? There's one thing I would like to ask of the city council. I would like to ask your permission, consent to waive the insurance for the event, because it is a public community event. And so that's the only thing I'd like to ask.
Have we had to have insurance in the past?
No.
Excuse me, but the difference here is, several council meetings ago, we proposed that we change the bylaws for the ordinance with the parks to be able to take into account having to have a little bit of control over what happens at the Veterans Memorial. What we went ahead and decided is that we're going to go ahead and use the existing rules that are already there, to where you have to fill out an application to use the park. But on the application, it says that the person that's reserving it needs to supply liability insurance. We checked with the insurance agent, Mr. Gustafson, and he said on a situation like this, the city council has the authority to waive that, the private insurance and let it be covered with city insurance. In the past, it has been covered as a city function and covered by insurance. The only thing that changes here is we're having them fill out an application for the to reserve it.
And we'll just do that every year, we'll fill one out so that we do the same as everybody else.
Wonderful. So I'm assuming in the October meeting, then we can just get that all cleared out. And I don't see personally any reason why we would not move forward with it. It's been a beautiful tradition that I've seen in the city since I've lived here, or at least since the parks have been built.
Well, with the COVID restrictions, we feel like we can maybe, with the fire department's help,
Of course.
place the chairs, at least 2 feet, maybe 3 feet, and still, have a sign requiring masks. And I really think, maybe it'll change. Maybe the governor will say, no more outside activities. So, but we're just gonna play it right here.
It's the best we can do, but I'd hate to see a council if we can have it. That'd be
Well, we
great.
didn't
And
have it last year.
I know, it was canceled last year. That was disheartening.
Yeah, so, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions real quick from Brimslow, Thomas, or Audrey on this?
I have none.
Is there a new board?
No questions.
The Crouch gone?
You're talking about officers?
Mhm.
Yes. Our previous president, Wheatcroft's, Kevin and Angie, they were officers, president and secretary. They have moved to Virginia. And so we have a new president. His name is, and I'll try the last name, is Mike Conkiana.
Okay.
He's a resident. He's been a member for 2 years. And so he said he'd be willing to, take on that position until we can get somebody else.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, once he's in the position, you tell him he's stuck.
That's-
Yeah, he has to move to Virginia if he
Showing
goes
up
off.
for the meeting, he's gonna be stuck too, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to consent agenda. I'll go ahead and read the 3 items on the consent agenda. One is A, approval of the July 13th, 2021 city council minute meeting minutes, sorry. B, approval of the August 2021 check register report. C, upon satisfactory contract negotiation, authorized to award the WWTP Master Plan Update Project and authorize Public Works Superintendent Mike Krebs to sign.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as read.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, number 12, appearance of interested citizens. Do we have any citizens that would like to speak? And I can see that we don't have any online. If not, is there any other city business? Okay, if there is no other city business, then next agenda item is adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, city council is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.